Hello and welcome to another episode of The Zoo. Today we're going to talk about the digital revolution. Is it coming? Is it here? Have we passed it? With us today is Erin Avery, all the way from Houston. Welcome, Erin.
Hey, Al.
And as always, Chris Rickson from Wales. Hi there, Chris.
Hi, evening, morning.
So, Erin, how do you perceive the digital revolution? Is that something from a time perspective, something that we are going into now? Or is that something that is in front of it, or are we in the midst of it already? Where are we
Yeah.
with the digital revolution?
Yeah, I think we're knee deep in it, maybe armpit deep in it. It may be too early to be talking about armpits on the zoo, but I think that depending on your company's perspective, where you are, your organizational structure, kind of what your company wakes up and does every day, you are somewhere on this continuum of the digital revolution. I read a stat the other day it was an analyst firm, and they said by 2020, 3/4 of the businesses around the globe are going to be embarking on the basically digitalization of their business. And we're seeing this show up in companies. It's not just companies that we traditionally think about that are use IT or use technology to be on the bleeding edge of their market, or their market is really defined by technology. We're seeing brick and mortar organizations, we're seeing manufacturing companies, companies that traditionally have a more physical business, really blending or blurring the lines of their business model to recreate or rethink the way that they go to market. I read an article the other day on L'Oreal, the cosmetics company. They're a manufacturer of cosmetics. And their CEO has a vision for how they are going to completely revolutionize their business leveraging digital services. So I think that this is fantastic, it's exciting, and we're in the midst of it. And if your company isn't already going through it at some point, you're probably about to start.
Chris, I would say that the digital revolution must have already started, because I've seen digital services for quite a while now, since college at least. Is this something new?
Yeah, I agree, by the way. I think digital is an interesting word, isn't it? Because you could argue that we've had digital services since they installed the first mainframe to do a payroll run many years ago. Language aside, I think this is different, and the reason is I think we are seeing technology-enabled business infrastructure that might not necessarily have been considered IT in the past, right? So we heard a lot about the Internet of Things, and that's such a broad term. But I like some of the language that Accenture's starting to use, where they talk about information technology and operation technology. So things like tractors that are connected, rammed full of sensors, measuring precisely exactly what they're delivering in terms of seed stocks into the ground, etc., connecting back to an interactive platform between the farmer, supplies to the farmer, etc. So I think this is different. I think this is an expansion of what it means to deliver technology way outside the normal realms of IT. I mean, we are seeing more and more of the quote-unquote value chain dependent on digital technology. So it's different in scope, scale, and complexity, I think.
So there's mining places in Australia now where there are no people. They just self-driving trucks and trains. You go in, get the iron ore, load it up, send it back. And the only people that go there are a new breed they call mech engineering. There are a mix of mechanical engineers and network engineers. And such a breed has never existed before, technically. And this is something that we never foresaw. I mean, that sounds like an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, but it's happening today.
Yeah.
From an enterprise perspective, managing the digital revolution will have new consequences, because you're going to have to take on so much more. You technically now are in charge of all business services. How does IT perceive that? Is that a challenge, that opportunity? Is that the end of IT as we know it?
I think it's a new beginning for IT. I think it's a huge opportunity. When we think about the modern application or the modern service, it's not a stack of technology pieces anymore. It really more closely resembles a connection point of multiple different sources of data and processes. And so this represents a really cool opportunity, I think, for the IT industry to, I want to say redefine itself, but evolve itself in the role of the changing business that's, you know, using these digital services that we've talked about to completely redefine and find new markets, by the way. It's not just redefine the way that they're doing their existing business. This is completely blowing open new markets and creating new markets and new opportunities that have never existed before, that were never possible to tap before. So I think this complexity is overwhelming because we've never managed it before as IT professionals, but I think it presents a radical opportunity to figure out, and maybe it's not about managing it, maybe it's about letting it grow organically, and instead of managing it and controlling it, maybe it's about mining the data that's put off from these processes, these digital services, and then leveraging that to completely change the business yet again at a faster pace than it's ever changed before. I don't know. Those could be some crazy thoughts.
No, and I think that's something. Do you think, Chris, that this is what IT will have this as an opportunity to change?
Yeah, I think so. I think an interesting question is, will we continue to see the existence of a separate IT function, or if every aspect of the value chain is completely dependent on digital technology, does that really mean that that capability will be distributed everywhere, etc., etc., etc.? So I think, without question, if you are a technology professional right now, things are going to get very interesting for you, and there's going to be lots and lots to do. I think that's the good news.
Yeah.
Quite what the context is in which you do it, I think that's anybody's guess. And pick up on Erin's point about what's management going to mean, what's systems management going to mean when everything is connected, everything is digital. Again, I think you're right. Taking a data-driven approach, I think, is probably going to be the only way to make sense of the sheer volume of information that's pouring out of everywhere, and being very clear about what we manage.
Yeah, well, and that's such a good point, because we're creating this. Somebody that I know has called it, or a couple people I know call it, data exhaust. These services, these systems are putting out so much data. How do we suss out, if you will, what data matters and what's just kind of noise that we throw into the recycling bin and ignore? And so that, I think, is as much the opportunity. I love that idea, Chris, that you just put forward about this isn't about management, it's about mining that data and finding the bits that are really interesting, those nuggets of gold, if you will, to go on Alp's mining example, and using that to really affect the business, using technology in the context of its business purpose instead of it being a separate IT function.
Well, from the script of Star Trek to MIT professors, they've all said that we're going to have a flatter organization as technology becomes our new god almost. Mm-hmm. Well, I really appreciate you both taking the time and join the zoo. For all of you out there, take care, be safe, bye-bye.